every worker has a right to be paid for their work. And even though the Fair Labor Standards Act and other legislation in the United States and in England succeeded the emancipation or release of these workers from the unlawful extrajudicial incarceration on these work sites, I believe that all of the laws, such as the Fair Labor Standards Act and others, should be retroactively applied in the interest of justice to these millions of civilians turned forced workers, approximately 17 million, as I have said repeatedly, which is more than the population of modern day Sweden, everybody in modern day Sweden, plus everybody in modern day Armenia, plus everybody in Jamaica, plus everybody in Montenegro combined. This is approximately the number of workers who were deprived of 100% of their wages for their entire working lives by their de facto employers who had the statutory and apparent authority of the governments, the United States, Britain, and others, to withhold 100% of the workers' wages, even though the workers had not done anything wrong to deserve this extreme, this cruel and unusual punishment. And then, after these initial workers produced children, their children were likewise incarcerated on these work sites with the permission, with the authorization, with the which what's wrong with me today? With the condonation of these very powerful governments in the world. And my view is that obviously this was not just wrong, it was grossly wrong. And the fact that we are 150 years from the final release of these workers from this unlawful incarceration on their work sites is not an excuse for any of these governments to ignore their responsibility, both moral and legal responsibility, to compensate the relatives of these workers who were just deprived of just everything, all of their labor rights, all their human rights, all their property rights, all their civil rights, all their constitutional rights, without due process of law, without any kind of judicial intervention, without any kind of governmental intervention, except, of course, the intervention that aided and abetted the de facto employers to violate the rights of these workers so capriciously and arbitrarily and unjustly. So it is my view that any and all labor laws that were subsequently enacted both in the United States and England, such as the Fair Labor Standards Act, I don't recall exactly when that was enacted, sometime in the 1930s, I'm thinking. Um, it is my view that all of these laws should be retroactively applied. And of course, we discussed the fact that retroactivity is a thing. I mean, laws can be retroactively applied under certain circumstances in order to achieve justice in a particular situation. So that's my view on the right of all workers, no matter their providence, no matter how they look, no matter where they came from, to be paid for their work. I think this is a norm. I think it's normal. I think it's right. I think it's just. I think I am not asking for something that is outrageous or unheard of. People work for their employer. Their employers are in a position to pay them. The employer should pay them. I mean, that's normal. It doesn't matter, how dark their skin is or how long their hair is or, what their passports say. I mean, this is a norm. So yeah, that's sort of all I have to say on that one. The Fair Labor Standards Act basically should be retroactively applied to these 17 million, approximately 17 million undefended civilian workers who between 1619 and 1865 were extrajudicially deprived of 100% of their wages for their labor and for their work by their de facto employers who were acting with the statutory and apparent authority of these very powerful governments that included, but is not limited to, the United States and the British Empire. And this was wrong. It was grossly wrong. It was manifestly unjust. And these governments need to go back, all of these powerful governments, and I say this respectfully, I don't mean any disrespect to any of these governments, but I respectfully demand that they go back and revisit this issue and